Hi everyone, how are you? It's Casey. Today's video came about because, well, I've been wanting to do this video for a couple of weeks now. And I had a different video planned for today because when I woke up this morning, it was beautiful, the sun was shining. I was so excited that it was going to be a really nice day to get a lot of work done with some good light. So I went for a really long run this morning and had lunch and sat down ready to work, and the weather took a turn for the worse and now it's very dark outside. I don't know if it's going to rain, but it's turning dark. So I didn't want to do a customizing video because of the fact that it makes it so hard to see what I'm doing. Even when I have lights on, there's just so many shadows. And my eyes are starting to get worse the older I'm getting with not being able to see. And so it's really hard right now where I live because we are in the dark times and we have a couple months of really dark weather. So it's my least favorite time of year. I'm trying to be positive about it, but it's frustrating to not be able to work. So I thought I would do this video because the lighting doesn't need to be perfect. You're just looking at me. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I found that through the holidays, most of the month of December, maybe even a couple in November, I was receiving a lot of messages in my Etsy shop from grandmothers, typically grandmothers, who were trying to find out more about Blythe because they had a grandchild wanting to get into doll customization. And the messages were very similar. My granddaughter is obsessed with these dolls and wants to get into making them. I don't know what I need to buy. Can you tell me more? That was the typical message. And unfortunately, this is going to kind of play off of the video I made about YouTube's changes also, because I want to make it very clear that in my opinion, doll customizing is not for children. It's not safe for children. It's not even really safe for adults. We wear a lot of protective equipment, and some of us don't, and we're hurting our health, and it's dangerous. So what I was going to do, a lot of times, as you guys know, when I get a lot of questions, a lot of the same question over and over, I like to make a video so that I can direct people to the video to answer their question instead of having to type out the answer to every single person. So I thought, why not make a video? This will also be kind of a great video for any adults who are getting started in customizing, understanding the risks and the tools that are involved. So I kind of made a list of each sort of part of the process, and then I kind of want to give you some thoughts if you are a parent or grandparent and your child wants to get into doll customizing. And this isn't just Blythe, it could be Reborn dolls, it could be Monster High dolls. There's lots of doll making and customizing out there, and it's all typically the same issues with danger and protection. So let me take a sip of my tea. So I'll kind of give you some thoughts on what you might do depending on the age of your child. It also depends on how much you want to be hands-on involved, because if the parent or grandparent really wants to be hands-on in the doll making process, then it could be a potential to work together. So the parent could maybe spray the sealer, the child could maybe do the painting. It sort of, again, depends on the age and how much the adult wants to be involved in the process. So I hope this video is recording well. It seems kind of blurry when I'm talking, but so the first thing, so when I was answering a lot of these, I was trying to think about what could a young person, what parts of the process could a young person do? And so the first thing that came to mind was changing the eyes. And I thought, okay, maybe just changing the eyes would be appropriate. However, To remove the factory eyes, you will need a lighter. Not safe for children, but this could easily be done by an adult. So you use the lighter to heat up the glue stick and stick it to the factory eye, let it harden, and then pull it out, and then you can put new eyes in. So this might be one of the simplest things for a child to potentially do to a doll, but it still would require adult supervision or an adult helping with the process by using the lighter. So changing the eyes requires lighter, glue stick, and new eyes to insert into the hole. Another process that might be appropriate and would be okay is changing the body. So the Blythe doll comes on the factory body, or depending on if it's a fake doll or a real doll, it's still a very similar body. It's not jointed. So a lot of times people want to change the body to a jointed body or a different size body. And to change the body, you really just need a screwdriver. Screwdrivers are pretty safe, depending on the age of the kid. They're not super sharp. It needs to be a very small point screwdriver. And so you'll have to unscrew the back of the head, take the screws out of the back of the head, sort of pop open the head to pull the body out and put the new one in, put it all back together, and screw the screws back in. So changing the body is a pretty basic and safe thing. You'd still need some supervision with the screwdriver, but it's something that can be done pretty easily without too much danger. But now moving forward, everything gets a little bit more dangerous. So changing the hair. So there's two options. You could change out the factory scalp for another factory scalp. Again, that would be pretty simple. You just need a screwdriver. Same thing. Take the screws out of the back of the head. Take out the screw that holds the hair on. Replace it, screw it back on, screw it all back together. So factory hair to other factory hair, pretty simple. However, if you want to reroot the hair with like a fiber like mohair or something like that, then you will need a rooting tool, which is a sharp needle that inserts into the tool, and you will be punching the hair into the scalp to reroot it. Not super safe for kids. Typically, once you kind of get the hang of it, it's not too dangerous, but you could easily poke your finger. And the needles break pretty easily, so you really do have to have a technique to do it well. And I don't personally even like doing it because it's very frustrating. Not something I could imagine a kid wanting to stick with. So, but that would be the tool for that. And now the actual carving process of the faceplate is probably the most dangerous part. The tools needed, the tools that I use are a Dremel tool, not necessary to get started and not recommended if you are new to Blythe, because you can easily sand through the faceplate or make a hole within seconds. That is not easy to repair, or you can't repair it at all, and your faceplate is ruined. So not recommended unless you've practiced a little bit on a faceplate before, but once you know what you're doing, and if you do start with a Dremel, starting very slowly, it is very helpful to have this to remove large pieces of plastic as well as do the nostril holes. So this Dremel tool is from Walmart. It's not an expensive one. I don't remember if it came with the extra bits or if I bought them, but you will need some extra bits that go on here, like one for the nostril. I use this one a lot to remove plastic around this part of the face, in here and around the nose, and then I use a really fine point one to do the nostrils. The other thing for carving is a very sharp X-Acto knife. This would probably be, other than chemicals, the most dangerous thing you're going to use. Definitely not recommended for any child, and even an adult needs to be very careful with this very sharp knife. The other thing I use is a file tool. This is a pretty safe tool. It's not super sharp, but it is a little bit sharp and it can slip. So you want to be very careful with this. I use the file for almost everything. Whatever I remove with the Dremel, I always go back over with the file. This is a file that also can go around the nose really well and in the mouth crease. I sell this file in my shop. I have it exclusively made for me to my specifications. It's the best tool there is, but not super safe. Okay, and then sandpaper, which is really no big deal, but those are the carving tools that you would need. And then when you're done carving, we move on to the other really unsafe part of customizing. Painting. Okay, so doing the makeup of the doll. And so if you're watching this video and you're not doing Blythe carving, but you're just wanting to do like a face up on a Monster High doll, this would still be a similar process for doing that, and again, not super safe. So the first thing you need is a sealant. Most doll customizers use Mr. Super Clear. There may be other options. I know there's lots of people who have experimented with things that are a little bit safer, but since this works so well, and at least for me has never had any issues, I stick with it. Now, this is an Asian, I think Japanese brand, so everything on the package is not in English, except for there is a small caution in English. But I can tell you, one of the reasons why I know this is really, really toxic is because it cannot go on an airplane. And so those who you buy this from have to have a special license also to even send it through the mail, because it's highly flammable, highly toxic. So when using this, you need to be wearing a special ventilation mask outside. It should never be sprayed in the house. You should never breathe this. And it's probably one of the worst parts of the process. So this should never be in the hands of children. It should never be sprayed around children. If you are helping your child, this is something you could do, but very far away from them. And I just wouldn't recommend it at all. You might, if they're wanting to get started in customizing, maybe finding something that's a little bit less toxic than this, just to play with. But this is the first step of coloring. And then you're going to be using pastels. Now there's all kinds of different pastels you can use. You can also use watercolor pencils, maybe less toxic. But some of the very high quality pastels, like the Rembrandt, which is what I use, which is what a lot of people use, come with a warning. And I have one in here with the warning sticker. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, so I'll read it to you. It says, "Warning, this product contains a chemical known to the state of California to cause cancer." So California has its own strict rule about this stuff coming in. And it's basically the powder. So when you take your pastel, you scrape it off into a powder, and that's how you brush it onto the face. And it's that powder, it's that breathing in that dust from the pastel that is toxic. And, well, I don't know if it's toxic, but it has chemicals in it that, as the warning says, can cause cancer. So really want to be careful with those around kids. I have a son, and I don't do any customizing when he's home. And I keep all my stuff stored away so that nothing's in the air when he's in the house. I also do wear a mask. I think I made a video about my mask. So I do now wear a mask for the majority of the process. But I still would even like to, at some point, have a better customizing area that's not inside my house. I unfortunately live in a small apartment. I don't have a garage. I don't have a space to work, and I'm hoping in the next year I might be able to change that, because it's I don't really like that it's in my living space. So then the pastels, then you're continuing with the spray. And then another part of the painting process is gloss, and this is Tamiya color. It's a really popular one around customizers, but even this one for me, it's so strong. I don't really like using it. I definitely wear my mask when I do. It's one of the reasons why we use it is it's a very high gloss. It stays very glossy. So some acrylic glosses, once you put them on, they're shiny, but then once they dry, they kind of, the gloss fades a little bit. This doesn't. This stays nice and glossy, and I love the look of it. But it's super strong, and it also has a warning that says this product contains chemicals which are known in the state of California to cause cancer, birth defects, or other reproductive harm, age 14 years and above. So they even put an age on this gloss. So I would not use this around children. So other than that, I just wanted to throw in one last little thing. If you're wanting to make teeth for your doll, you will need some Sculpey clay, or this is Sculpey. And remember that this goes in the oven and has to be baked. So there are some clays that are air dry, but they have their own issues and chemicals in them. So either way, this would not work well with a child because you will need to use the oven. But it could potentially be supervised by an adult. So basically, when I started to kind of write out each step of the customizing process and what tools were needed, I really didn't find much that would be appropriate for children. Maybe teenagers and older. But like the gloss said, 14 and younger, I think, or the gloss was 14 and older, so 13 and younger, I think is just very young, and it's just too dangerous for them to get into doll customizing. That doesn't mean that children can't participate in making dolls. When I first started making dolls, I started by sewing, and sewing, again, there's a needle, but I've seen a lot of children learn to sew or crochet, and be able to participate that way in doll making, because I do think that making dolls is for everyone, and I think that children, if they want to get into a hobby like that, I wouldn't want to discourage it. But unfortunately, this hobby, the doll customization hobby, it's just dangerous. The supplies needed are dangerous, and not appropriate for children. So it was kind of funny that this topic came up over the holidays after YouTube making its changes and the COPPA video that I made about those changes, because there are a lot of people feeling like the doll customization genre is going to be affected because it's going to be assumed that doll making is for kids, but it's not. And so I thought it was kind of interesting to make a video like this and really think about each product that is needed and how it's extremely not for children and not safe around children. So anyway, I hope it's not a downer for me to tell you this. I hope it's more of a resource and a starting point for parents or grandparents who have children that love the dolls and are interested in learning more, but an honest assessment of the situation. And there are things like maybe buying a already carved faceplate or an already painted faceplate. There are inexpensive ones you can find, and having the child put it together with just a screwdriver, changing the body, buying clothing. Clothing is super fun for kids. So, maybe even making some type of clothing out of felt or paper would be a great way for kids to get involved in the hobby, but avoid the dangers of using the products that are just not safe. So I welcome questions on here, on YouTube, or in my Etsy shop all the time. and I'm hoping this will be a reference that I can send to people when I get that question. I'm assuming now that the holidays are over, I'm not going to get the question until next year. But now we've got it down so we can refer people to that. So I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. The New Year is coming up next week. We are going to be at the beach. So I hope you all have a good one. I'm planning on relaxing, except Blythe vs. Blythe starts next week also. It's in January, so the 1st of January, New Year's Day, the event starts. The artists participating have been announced, so I'll put a link to the website below. You still have plenty of time to sign up. Go see who the artists are that are competing. I think you're going to be really thrilled when you find out who the artists are. They're both amazing. Someone's going to win a really cool doll, and there's going to be lots of other surprises. So check it out if you haven't. It's starting very soon, next week. So have a good one, you all, and I'll see you in a week. Bye.